Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. That very day, the first day of the week, two of Jesus' disciples were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus. They were conversing about all the things that had occurred. And it happened that while they were conversing and debating, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them, but their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped, looking downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, said to him in reply, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" And he replied to them, "What sort of things?" They said to him, "The things that happened to Jesus the Nazarene, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people. How our chief priests and rulers both handed him over to a sentence of death and crucified him. But we were hoping that he would be the one to redeem Israel. Besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since this took place. Some women from our group, however, have astounded us. They were at the tomb early in the morning and did not find his body. They came back and reported that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who announced that he was alive. Then some of those with us went to the tomb and found things just as the women had described, but him they did not see." And he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are! How slow of heart to believe all that the prophets spoke. Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things and enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them what referred to him in all the scriptures. As they approached the village to which they were going, he gave the impression that he was going on farther. But they urged him, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening and the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. And it happened that while he was with them at table, he took bread, said the blessing, broke it, and gave it to them. With that, their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, but he vanished from their sight. Then they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he spoke to us on the way and opened the scriptures to us?" So they set out at once and returned to Jerusalem, where they found gathered together the 11 and those with them who were saying, "The Lord has truly been raised and has appeared to Simon." Then the two recounted what had taken place on the way and how he was made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. Two of Jesus' disciples were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem. Two disciples walking away from Jerusalem, walking away from everything that had just happened. And you can hear it in their words. We were hoping. We were hoping. Not we are hoping, we were hoping. Something in them changed. They had trusted. They had believed. And now they're trying to make sense out of all this. And so what do? They leave. They leave Jerusalem, the place where everything happened, the place where the resurrection was first announced. And they walk away. And yet, that's where Jesus meets them as they walk away on that road. Not when they're strong in their faith, not when they got it all together, but he meets them when they're walking away in confusion, while they're trying to sort all this out. We were hoping. think we probably can say that we've all had moments like that. Moments when things just don't go the way we expect it. Moments when our prayers, like, God, where are you? My prayers never answered. Moments when we quietly think, I thought it would be different. And in those moments, it can feel like God is so distant. But the gospel shows us something else. What the gospel is telling us this morning is that he's right there. He's right here. He's walking with us. Even when we don't recognize him, he is there. And notice what Jesus does when he meets them on that road. He doesn't interrupt them right away. He lets them talk. He doesn't correct them right away. He just listens to them. He lets them speak. He lets them express their disappointment. And then, little by little, he begins to help them see. Starting with Moses and the prophets, he shows them that even the suffering, even the cross, it was not the end. No, not at all. But instead, that suffering, that cross, it was part of something much greater. And that's what we hear in the Acts of the Apostles this morning. When Peter stands up and he proclaims boldly that what happened to Jesus, it was not something that just happened at random. It was not failure of any type. It was all a part of God's great plan. And just think about that. Peter saying this. You know, Peter, he was the one who denied Jesus 3 times. Now, though, he speaks with courage. He speaks with conviction. Something has changed. And we see that same change beginning in the gospel today. When the disciples say later, "Were not our hearts burning within us?" Something is happening inside them, even before they fully understand. And then comes that moment, that special moment, when they're sitting at the table. What's Jesus do? He takes the bread. He blesses it. He breaks it. And he gives it to them. And in that moment, that very moment, their eyes are opened. It's then that they recognize him. They didn't recognize him on the road. They didn't recognize him as he was explaining things to them, but they recognized him in the breaking of the bread. That is the Holy Eucharist that we've come to receive once more this Sunday morning. And it's telling us something very important. If we want to recognize Christ in our lives, if we're looking for clarity, if we're looking for strength, if we're looking for direction, this is where we find him. Right at this altar. Right in that Holy Eucharist. Right in the breaking of the bread. Because just like those disciples, we come in with questions. We don't always have it all figured out. We carry a lot with us from day to day. Our concerns, our disappointments, our struggles, things that have been on our minds all week, maybe our entire life. And here, in this very church this morning, at this altar that we gather on, he makes himself known. Not as a symbol, not as a sign, but truly the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. And maybe not by answering every question, but by reminding us that he is present and he is alive and that he is with us. And notice what happens next. They're at the table with him. He breaks the bread. They recognize him. Everything changes. they don't stay at that table. They don't stay where they're at. Even though it's late at night now, they get up and they go back to Jerusalem. They go back on that very road that they walked on where they were so discouraged. Now, as they're going back, they are walking with purpose. That's what an encounter with the risen Christ does. It changes direction. It changes our direction. It moves us from we were hoping to we have seen the Lord. And that's the invitation, I believe, that we are receiving this morning. To bring before the Lord those parts of our life that don't make sense right now. To bring before him those prayers that feel so unanswered. The things that we're still trying to understand. To trust that even when we don't see clearly, he is walking with us. And here, in the breaking of the bread, he will make himself known. And when he does, we won't leave the same. We'll go out differently, with our hope restored, with our faith renewed, because the story is not over. Christ is risen, and Christ is walking with us.